Joining us today is Raymond Ramos, an implementation specialist with our ALEKS group here at McGraw-Hill Education. He covers the K12 portion of the ALEKS product. Ray works with student teachers, administrators, and sales consultants in the field to make sure that the power of ALEKS is unlocked for every unique implementation. In addition to training and consulting with end users, Ray works with various internal teams to get them up to speed with ALEKS. Ray considers himself to be one of the luckiest ones that gets to see ALEKS being used successfully in the many schools that he has visited. Also from ALEKS in the implementation team, we have Kathy Chang on, who's going to be moderating some questions and some polls for us. So welcome to you folks. And Ray, I'm going to turn everything over to you now.
Thank you so much, Doug, and thank you everybody who's joining us today. We really appreciate you being on the call to talk about ALEKS and to be on this introduction to ALEKS here. So first, I just want to thank Kathy, who's going to be moderating the session for us. She is going to be running our different polls and looking at these different questions you're sending in. So please send those in now. And before we jump in, I just want to talk a little bit about ALEKS, the program in general. So here we are on the ALEKS website, aleks.com. This is where students and teachers would log in, and this is where you, as someone who's interested in ALEKS, can find out a lot more information about how ALEKS works, the research behind ALEKS, and the different markets that we serve. So ALEKS itself is a web-based math program for grades 3 through 12 in the K12 market. And what we do is when students first get into the program, we give them an initial assessment that adapts to their knowledge. So they take a non-predetermined adaptive assessment that creates a unique learning path based on that assessment for students. So we're going to walk through all of that today in both the student side of ALEKS and the teacher side based on all this data that's being generated by student usage. So with that said, we're going to jump into the student account. But before that, we want to do a little poll. So I'm going to introduce Kathy here to introduce our poll for us.
Hi, Ray. Okay, everybody, I'm going to launch the very first polling question for us. So you should be able to see it on your screen right now. It's asking, what types of technology or devices are used for math instruction in your class, school, or district? Now, you're allowed to select more than one response, so feel free to check all that apply here. And I'll give you a few seconds to submit your answers before we move on. All right, I'll give you a couple more seconds to submit your answer before closing the poll officially. So okay, the poll is now officially closed. And let's go ahead and look at the results.
Okay, Kathy, could you tell me what you're seeing here?
Yeah, it looks like the majority of the group is using interactive whiteboards or projectors, and a really good percentage of the group is also using computer labs, laptop carts, and also tablets. Okay,
great. So the great thing about ALEKS is that we work with all of these things. So if you have these interactive whiteboards in your classroom, it looks like a lot of you do, or projectors, I'll show you how you can pull up certain topics in ALEKS and use that for warm-up problems, for example, in your classroom. Of course, with computers, we are a web-based math program, so if you have a Mac or a PC, we're compatible with those. And tablets as well, all the way up to Algebra 1, we are tablet compatible. So when students log in and use our program, they can do it on an iPad or an Android tablet above 7 inches. So it's really there for students no matter what platform they're using. And we're looking forward to showing you how you can use ALEKS with these different tools that you have in your classroom. So, so what I'm going to do now is jump into the student side of ALEKS. And the first thing students do when they get into the program is learn how to use the basic tools of ALEKS. So here, it's asking me to type in the number 14. So I'm going to do that. So type in 14 using my keyboard and follow these tools here, these instructions on these tools to enter my answer. And this is important. Just because we want to get students familiar with the ALEKS program, but also because ALEKS uses very little multiple choice. So we are an open response, free response program, and we need to show students how to get used to this environment. So in this case, I have a fraction here where I'll use the fraction button to create my formula here, and I'll build it here using these tools. And there's lots of these tools built in, but my personal favorite is this graphing tool. And this is really great because, for example, if you're doing this on pencil and paper, we want to make it so the transition to an online environment is very seamless, right? So we have these virtual tools like a pencil and a ruler that will allow students to draw their line right into this graph. So, we know that the Common Core assessments are going to be, they're trying to push this web-based environment. So getting used to these web-based assessments using these tools is really great right off the bat with ALEKS. So what I'm going to do now, though, is fast forward through the tools and the tutorial and jump into the assessment, because this is really a very important part of ALEKS that finds out 3 important things about your students. First, what they know. Second, what they don't know. And third, most important, is what students are ready to learn. Okay, so that's in the title of this webinar, because ALEKS is very unique in this sense where not only do we find out those two things that a lot of other programs can do, but we find out what students are ready to learn at any given time. And I'm going to show you more about this as we move along here, but it's a very important concept to ALEKS. So just make sure you remember ready to learn. That's one of the big ALEKS trademarks here. Okay, so let's jump into the assessment. It's about 25 to 30 questions long. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to complete. And as we start this, it's going to give students a question here around the middle of the curriculum to find out where the student's at. Okay, so I'm very confident in my answer, so I'm going to go ahead and put in an answer. And those of you watching probably know that that's completely wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway and show you what happens. So as I answer my questions in this assessment, it tells me that students won't be told if the answers are correct. So as a student, you're just moving along through this assessment, and we're just trying to find out where you're at. So if you get one wrong, if you get one correct, that's okay, because we're just, we're not testing you right now. We're just trying to find out where you stand. And as students move along here, if they get a one correct, I'm going to get a correct answer for us and show you what happens. But I should note that this solve button and this fast forward button are not available to students. Okay, so students won't get that solve button as much as they try. It's just for me for our demo today. And I'm going to press next. And you see that there's no feedback about the correctness of my answer. It just moves along to the next question. But what's really important about this is that it's not just moving on to the next question. It's actually adapting to the student as the student moves along. So in this case, we don't know what question 5 is going to be because it depends on how the student answers question number 4. All right, so if I get this one correct, very likely it's going to go to a more advanced question. If I get one incorrect, a more basic question, and constantly adapt to the student to make sure we find their level in this course. Okay, and because of that, let's say I answer this one correctly, and this adapts to me, but I don't quite know how to answer this question. We provide this I haven't learned this yet button for students. So if they truly don't know the question that appears to them, they can click on that, and that will avoid any frustration they might be having by not knowing the answer. Okay. So again, this assessment is about 25 to 30 questions long. It shows them their progress at the top here. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to complete. But it does save their progress, right? So if we were to log out right now to go to lunch, for example, and log back in, we'd still be on question number 6, right? We don't have to start over. It's a web-based program, so all that progress is saved. Okay, so that is the ALEKS assessment. One thing I should mention is that it uses an artificial intelligence engine developed by ALEKS to do this adapting for students. And if you want to read more about that, you can go to our website, aleks.com. I'm sure some of you have that up already. And you click on the What is ALEKS link. You can read all about the research and how ALEKS was developed there. And I'll just mention that towards the end here where you can see that as we go through the website later on. Okay, well, I'm going to jump into the learning mode now. Kathy, I'm going to pause here. Is there any questions that you want to mention for me here?
Not at this point, no, Ray. I think we're
Okay.
good.
All right. So let me go ahead and fast forward through this assessment. Again, students won't have that. They do have to complete the whole thing. and I want to pick a student who has about moderate knowledge of this Algebra 1 course. So when students finish their assessment, they get what is known as the ALEKS pie chart. And this pie chart is a really great visual indicator of where the student stands in the course. So first of all, this pie chart is separated into different slices, which represent the different topic areas in Algebra 1. And for our student already knows 216 out of the 505 topics in this Algebra 1 course. Okay? And each slice has a dark portion and a light portion, representing the amount the student knows in that topic area, and the light part representing what the student still needs to learn in that topic area. Okay? So what's really great for the student is that they're already coming in with some knowledge, and so they don't need to relearn these things they already know. But also, this whole key part to ALEKS is only giving students topics that they're ready to learn. Okay, so I'm going to show you this in action right now. So for example, this is also the student's main menu of sorts. So in order to access topics to practice, we would mouse over a specific slice, right, and look at the topics to practice. And so in this case, I'm going to work with systems. And our student here in systems knows 3 out of the 20 topics in this slice. So that means that the student still has 17 topics that they need to learn. So when you go in there, you would assume that you'd see 17 topics to practice. But that's not the case, right? So in this case, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 topics that the student can practice right now. So why is that? Well, this is based on the ready-to-learn concept, right? So based on the assessment the student just took, he showed that he has certain prerequisites he's met to successfully learn these topics. So not only are they prerequisites, but there's also the research that we've done on these topics on student learning. And these are the 5 topics that the student's going to have a over 90% learning rate in. Okay, so they come in here, they see these topics, and I can click on one. I'm going to click on this linear inequality one here. And this takes us to the learning mode. Okay, so this is where a student would come in and practice these topics that they're ready to learn. And so I pulled up an inequality graphing question here. And again, I'm really confident in my answer. So I'm going to go ahead and graph a line very quickly for us here. Now, if I forgot how to use this tool, or if this was the first time I was using this tool, I'd be able to get some quick help with a short tutorial on how to use this tool. Okay, but in this case, I do know how to use the tool, so I'm going to graph that there and press next. Okay, so here we go. So here's one of the big differences in the learning mode, is that now I do get feedback on the correctness of my answer. And in this case, the solution set for this problem is a region of the plane. So it's giving me a little tip here and telling me my answer is incorrect. Now, I could continue to try to answer this question, but I don't know it, right? So instead of clicking, I haven't learned this yet, now I can click on the Explain button. And this Explain button is going to give me a step-by-step explanation of the exact problem I was working on. Okay, so here's the problem at the top, the explanation in the middle here, and then finally the answer at the bottom. Okay, so here's the answer. And so what's really great about this is all these questions that ALEKS is giving to the students are generated algorithmically. So this means that every time a student works on this topic, so our topic is graphing a linear inequality, it's going to be a unique instance of that problem. So it's going to have unique numbers. The graph is going to have a different slope. If it's a word problem, a different scenario. Okay, so students won't be able to memorize a specific instance of this topic and then come to it later, or look at their neighbor who's working on the same one, because it's all going to be slightly different for these students. Another great thing about this, for those of you who have maybe Spanish-speaking students, we have an English to Spanish toggle that will change all the interface, including the explanations, into Spanish. Okay, so really good if you have students who have Spanish as a native language, or maybe if they log in from home and their parents speak Spanish exclusively, a student can log in from home, right, with their web-enabled computer, and switch over to the Spanish toggle and show their parents what they're working on in class. Okay, so this is a great toggle here, but I don't speak Spanish myself, so I'm going to go back to English here and continue. All right, so the student would read the explanation, click on Practice, and again, uniquely generate a problem. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use this solve button that students don't get to show you what happens when a student gets an answer correct. Okay, so it gives me positive feedback now. Tells me that good practice again. So I do have to do these questions more than once in order to show that I've learned it. So I'm just going to zoom through here, answer these questions. You can see that they're being uniquely generated for me. So one more time, and I'll add it to my pie. So I've done this enough times where ALEKS has determined that the student has learned this question. They can always practice more if they wanted to, but in most cases, students will click on Done, which will return them to their pie chart. But now the pie chart has grown, right? So previously, we were at 216. Now we're at 217. And our system slice has grown from 3 to 4. Now what's cool about this is that if this topic that I just learned was a prerequisite for something else elsewhere in this slice or other slices in ALEKS, now this new topic is ready to be learned, right? So now it's unlocked for me. I can go to that topic and practice it now because I've met the prerequisites. Okay, so that's how students unlock topics in their pie and continue to learn. But ALEKS is very much a mastery-based program. So just because a student learns something right now, it doesn't mean that they've mastered it long-term, right? So, so what we do is after a student has learned a topic, learn about 20 of these topics roughly, they'll automatically get something called a progress assessment. And that progress assessment is based on what they've recently learned to make sure they've retained it. Anything a student has forgotten is going to return to their pie chart, and the student will have to practice it again. Okay, so what it does, it creates a cycle of assessment and learning for you as a teacher, where students will automatically show, or will automatically need to show, that they're retaining all these topics that they're learning. Okay, so that's how the cycle of assessment and learning works in ALEKS, and it really ensures mastery throughout the entire time they're using ALEKS. Okay, before I continue, that was a very important part of how ALEKS works. Kathy, do we have any questions?
Yeah, one question came in just now. It says, about how many topics do you need to learn before students are presented with another one of those assessments?
Right, so the progress assessments happen after a student learns about roughly 20 topics, but they have to have spent at least 5 hours in the program. So, you know, it really varies per student. As students work in the beginning, they're probably going to learn more topics within that 5 hours. And as they go later into the course and learning some more advanced content, it'll probably take a little longer. But, you know, roughly about 20 topics learned, they'll get a progress assessment.
Thank you.
All right. So a couple other features I want to highlight here in the student account before we jump over to the teacher side. We have a review link. So any of these 217 topics a student has already learned, they can review them. For example, if they have an in-class exam, they can go to review and practice anything they've learned. We also have this dictionary of terms. So during the explain pages or anywhere in the problems, if you see an underlined term, that can be clicked on, and that'll take us to the ALEKS dictionary of terms, where they can see explanations on specific terms. We have a quiz feature. We're going to talk about that very briefly on the teacher side. But I want to highlight this worksheet. This is a great worksheet, a printable worksheet that's really great if, for example, you don't have students don't have internet access at home, or you don't have an access to a computer lab a particular day. What you can do is you can either students can generate a worksheet themselves, or you can generate worksheets for students that are printable. So you can print these out and have students do some practice in ALEKS, and it's personalized to them. So if everybody on this webinar today generated a worksheet for themselves, it would be unique for all of us because we all have different knowledge in this Algebra 1 course. Now what's great about this too is that we're going to send the answer key to the teacher, to the teachers here. So you do have to grade it by hand since it is a printable, but you'll have the answer keys for these, so you don't have to do all the math. Okay, so that is the ALEKS worksheet. There's some other things here. There's an internal inbox that students can use to communicate with their teacher or vice versa. And you can actually attach a problem you're struggling with to the inbox if you have a question for your teacher, and that'll be so his teacher can see a screenshot of the topic you're working on. Students have access to their own reports. Reports we'll cover on the teacher side. And the final thing I want to mention is the resources area. And this is where you, as an instructor, can upload resources. So you can upload something like a syllabus. You can upload a picture if you want to talk about it. You can even upload links to other websites. So, for example, if you, let's say, I know some of you teachers maybe create your own YouTube videos to show students a particular topic or lesson. You can actually link to that video and not only just put it in this resources area, you can actually link them to specific topics, right? So if there's a problem on multiplying fractions that students have been struggling with, you can create a little video on that and link that to the explain page, and students can get additional support when they're working on that particular topic. Okay, so that is the student account. Any final questions about the student account, or any questions right now about the student account before we move on?
One question came in, Ray. It asked if it's possible to generate a worksheet for a particular topic.
A worksheet for a particular topic.
Yeah.
So the worksheet is individualized for students, so it's based on what they've been recently learning. You can change it, so instead of just being a review, you can actually give them topics based on what they're ready to learn. But if you want to give them topics, give them questions on a specific topic, you would use our assignments feature, which I'm going to show you in the teacher side. Okay, so that would be where you can select your own topics for students to work on them.
Perfect.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is do another poll. So right as we're moving into the teacher side, let's ask another poll question here, Kathy. So if you can take over that one for me.
Sure. So you should be able to see the next poll now. And it says, how is math instruction currently handled in your classroom, school, or district? And for this poll, you could only input one answer. So if you read through the different options, it gives you various percentages on how you teach. So do you focus more so on group instruction and lecture, or do you have individualized instruction for every single student? So I'll give you some time to input your choice for this one. All right, a few more seconds and then I'll officially close the poll and we'll go over the results together. All right, so here are the results, Ray. It looks like 51% of the group has 0 to 25% of individualized instruction, and the rest is group instruction. And 33% of the group, so second in line, has 25% to 50% individualized instruction, and the rest is group. So it looks like overall, the majority of the group is focusing more on that individualized, personalized instruction.
Wait, I think it's the opposite, right, Kathy? It's 75. The one that's highest is 75 to 100%
Oh, I'm sorry.
group,
yes,
right?
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe a lot of people want to go to that perhaps individualized instruction, but maybe you're trying to figure this out, right? Because sometimes it's difficult working with a group of students to individualize instruction for every one of these students, right? And I think a lot of teachers know how to do this, but how do we find the time during the day to really individualize the classroom for students? So, well, let's talk about it, right, Kathy? So let's jump into the teacher side and see how perhaps Alex can help you out with this as a teacher. So, here we are in our ALEKS teacher account, and what I'm going to do is highlight a few things here. We're going to get to that poll question in a moment, but the first thing I want to talk about is on this teacher side, you see some dashboards here. And these dashboards are really great as an instructor when using ALEKS because what it's going to do, it's going to bubble up some really important information for you as you need it. So it's dynamic and it adapts to you and to your classroom as certain things happen in here. So for example, when we're talking about ready-to-learn topics, it's going to tell you which of the top 5 ready-to-learn topics are in your classroom, which are great, great topics to work with for your entire class. Okay, so these dashboards are really great. But what I'm going to do now is focus on reports. I think a lot of people are interested in the reports in ALEKS, and this is where teachers will spend a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is take a look at the ALEKS pie chart report, the ALEKS pie. Okay, so this is the ALEKS pie report. It's going to look very similar to the pie chart we were looking at, but there's a big difference here is that instead of looking at it for an individual student, now we're looking at it as a class. Okay, so as a class, you can see that students are pretty strong at their arithmetic and real numbers, but need to work on some other areas. So what we're going to do here is, let's say we're a teacher and we want to focus on a specific area. So let's say we wanted to focus on, let's do systems again. We were looking at systems earlier. Let's say we wanted to talk about systems with our classroom. So what we could do is click on that percentage, and that's going to show us all the topics available to teachers, or to students, I'm sorry, in the systems topic area systems slice. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for us to make it a little bigger. And so in the systems area, it's going to give you all the topics here on the left, and then 3 columns. It's going to tell you whether students have mastered that topic, whether they've not mastered it, or most importantly, if they're ready to learn this right now. Okay, so how can this be useful in a classroom situation, right? Because I think ideally, not only do we want to do a group lesson, but we want that group instruction to be individualized as well, right? The best of both worlds. And perhaps you can see how this can be used in that situation. So for example, let's say you wanted to do something and you wanted to teach interpreting the graphs of 2 functions. But you came in here and you saw that your students have 100% mastery in that topic. So that's probably not the best use of your class time, right? If you weren't planning to do a review today, then this is not a good idea. So you come in here and see, well, let's find one that has a higher percentage of my students. So let's say solving a system of linear equations, about half my class has mastered it, 45% has not mastered it, but more importantly, 36% of my students are ready to learn it. So that means that they've met the prerequisites for these topics. It's available for them to practice in their pie chart. And so that's all if we could find out who those students are, right? So what we could do is actually click on any of these percentages. So I'm going to click on this 36%, and it's actually going to tell me who those students are. So when we're talking about doing group instruction, but more targeted group instruction, so group instruction that's actually individualized for students, this is a way to do that, right? So here we have this group of students, and what we can do is find out other topics that these students are ready to learn. So we can click on this, and we can find other topics these students have in common. So now we have a group of students that have commonalities, that have common ready-to-learn topics, and now we can do a group instruction that's actually individualized for each student. And one thing we can do, for those of you, one question we had is, well, what kind of technology you have? Well, if you have a projector in your classroom or a whiteboard, smartboard, you can actually click these links here, and it's going to generate a sample problem for you. So you can use this as a warm-up problem in your classroom. You can actually have students work on this, right, on the projector or on their own. And then after they've done that, you can actually click on Explain, and it will show them a step-by-step explanation, just like you would in the learning mode. And here I want to highlight, this is how resources that you put in your classroom would look. So if you attached a link to a video or a note for students, it would show up right on their Explain page, and they can access that right then and there. Okay, so that is our ALEKS pie chart report, a really great report, a teacher favorite, and this is one way we can really focus on that group, but also individualized instruction. Now, before I go to some other reports here, I do want to highlight, you may notice that it says ALEKS Beta. So this interface that we're using is in beta right now, and will be released pretty soon. We're working on getting this available and out of beta very soon. But this is what the new instructor module will look like. Or this is the one that we're working on in beta. Okay, well, any other questions, Kathy, before I jump into another report?
No, you're good to go.
Okay, so there's other various reports here. Let's look at the state standards report, the standards report here, because we know standards are very important. I picked California, so it's going to show me the California Common Core standards for Algebra 1. But we do integrate with and correlate with all the different state standards, all the 50 state standards, and the Common Core as well. So we're going to look at California's Common Core here and bring up this report. Okay, so here's the standards report here. At the very top, you have these different groupings of standards and how students are doing on average. So here are the different areas here. But as we scroll down, what we could do is see a breakdown by standard. So you can actually see all the different standards themselves and your percentage mastery for your classroom. So what I can do is click on a percentage. Let's say I wanted to work on adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials. So I can click on that 48% mastery. And now it's going to show me the exact standard here and which students have mastered the standard and which ones have progressed, which ones have not progressed towards mastering the standard. Now, when we talk about mastering standards, it's the ALEKS topics that correspond to the standard. So what we can do is click on the 12 ALEKS topics that correspond to this standard. So you can see how we've done the correlation. And you can actually click on these links as well to see a sample problem. There's the FOIL method there. And as we scroll down here as well, not only do we have these standards, the content standards, we also have the mathematical practices standards as well, which are very important for the Common Core. And you can look at these standards and see how we've correlated to specific ones like modeling with mathematics, attending to precision. We have these here as well. Okay, so that is the state standards report. I do want to cover one more report with you all today, and that is the time and topic report. This is actually my personal favorite. So this time and topic report will allow you to see how your students are spending time in the ALEKS program. So here you have the total time per day, and this can be you can change this date range for up to up to 20 months, 20 weeks in your classroom for your class. And as you scroll down here, again, I'm going to zoom in for us so we can see that a little better. We can see all the names of our students, the total time they spend in ALEKS, the total time they spend in ALEKS at school, and also their time log, right? So we can see on a day-to-day basis how much time students are spending in the program. So let's look at a student here. Let's look at Carlos. So for example, Carlos on Friday, he spent 12 minutes in ALEKS. He mastered one topic, and he only tried one topic that day, so 1 over 1. So if you were working with Carlos and you said, well, Carlos, we were in the computer lab for an hour on Friday. What happened, Carlos? And Carlos says, well, it was Friday, so I wasn't focused, right? So what you could do is actually click on Carlos's name and get more detailed information. So let's say on Tuesday he was working in here, and you want to look at Tuesday. We can click on his name and see his individual time and topic report. So on Tuesday, he spent 33 minutes, and maybe he said, well, Miss Teacher, Mr. Teacher, I tried four topics, but I was really struggling with a couple of them. And so what you could do is you can actually click on the topics he attempted that day and see exactly which topics he was able to master with an asterisk, and the ones he wasn't able to master don't have that asterisk. So you can call our student up here. His name was Carlos, and say, okay, Carlos, let's look at factoring here and walk through this with him so you can make sure you can overcome that hurdle in your classroom and really provide that individualized instruction. Another thing you can do here is you can actually click on the date and see exactly every instance the student had within ALEKS. So if they got a question correct, if they got one wrong, if they clicked explain, you'd be able to see that all in here by clicking these different links here on the right. Now, in our free trial account, we don't have that data, but in an account you'd see all these different instances of your students learning in there. So you can identify if a student is struggling with a particular topic or not. Okay, so that is reporting. Kathy, any questions?
Yeah, Ray, for the time and topic report, a really
Sure.
great question came in. So if a student is actually not on task, will ALEKS log that time in the time and topic report?
Good question. So what happens is that if a student, it actually does time out for the student. So if the student is inactive for 30 minutes, it actually times out automatically for them. And you can make that timeout a little faster if you wanted to. You have the option to do that. But if they do time out, any time, like let's say it times out after 30 minutes, the previous 30 minutes is not recorded because there is no activity. So yeah, it will do that for students if they're not having any activity in there.
Perfect.
Anything else?
We had a question about mastery, but I'll wait until you conclude the rest of the teacher side before we jump into that one.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so a couple other things to highlight here on the teacher side. There's many things to talk about. I could talk about a lot of these things here, but just a couple more things. Here are the assignments we mentioned before. So you could create different assignments in the classroom. So if I go to the class, I can create homework, tests, and quizzes for students. And this is where, going back to the question about, well, how can I select specific topics? You can go into these different features here, like the quiz feature, and or a homework assignment, and select specific topics that you want your students to work on. Okay, so the worksheet is automatically generated for you based on students, students' current learning. But the homework, tests, and quizzes, this is independent of the student's pie chart, and where you could actually build your own custom assignment. Okay. There's other things as well here. We have a community here in ALEKS where you can actually link up with your peers who are using ALEKS and share strategies and talk about how you're using ALEKS. It's a great place to look at that. And there's just some different features available here in the teacher side. You can actually share access to your course or to a student if you wanted to do that with another teacher. You can actually group students if you wanted to look at reports based on a specific group of students. I know a lot of you are using grouped instruction, so you can actually group them based on groups that you've created. You have a grade book in here, but we'll save that for another day and for any follow-up questions. But there's a lot of features in here that we could talk about. So the final thing I want to do is go back to our website and take a look at some resources available on our website. So if you go to our website, aleks.com, again, this is where students and teachers would log in. But what you could do is click on the K12 area here. And you have a lot of information you have access to. The first thing I want to highlight real quick is our course products. So here, again, we go from 3rd grade all the way up to pre-calculus. So you can come in here and see all of our course products. You can learn more about them. You can actually open them up and see the content in all of our courses as well. Another great tool here is our implementation strategies. So perhaps you're interested in ALEKS and everything looks good, but you have a very specific way you use ALEKS and are thinking about using ALEKS at your school. So what you could do is go to our implementation strategies database, which has teachers just like yourself or ALEKS users who have shared their story with us, have shared their implementation with us. And you can actually come in here and sort it by different scenarios. So let's say you have a computer lab and you're thinking about using ALEKS for intervention. You have 212 users who are kind enough to share their implementation, and you can come down here and click on how they use ALEKS. So I can click on the school here, and it'll show me how they implemented ALEKS with success, what kind of grading system they used, and so forth. The final thing, or a couple things, we have a training center here. We have daily training sessions, and we provide complimentary training, including daily sessions. We have quick start guides, on-demand videos, and tutorials. If you want to learn more, you can do that here. And the research behind ALEKS. So I did mention that. So here from our K12 page, you can actually click on Research Behind ALEKS and read about how ALEKS was started. and the science behind ALEKS. So you're welcome to do that. Or you can also click on the What is ALEKS link here, and there'll be a lot of information about ALEKS as well. Okay, well, at this point, I'm going to open it up for questions. So let's go ahead and start that. Kathy?
Awesome. Okay, Ray, if you could jump back over to the student side, actually.
Sure.
We had a question about mastery and what that actually means. So a really great question came in, and a lot of people have asked this as well, that what defines mastery? So does this mean that students practice it and they just have to pass a few instances of it? Or how does that really
Sure.
get
that's a great question.
Within ALEKS? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. So so mastery of the ALEKS Pi, right? So for example, how it says 217 out of 505 here. That means the student, based on what our current knowledge of the student right now, that the student knows 217 topics, these individual topics in the course. Now, as we work in these topics, a student has to learn these multiple times in order to add to their Pi. Now, the number of times really varies depending on the student's history, right? If the student, if we, the ALEKS, I guess, artificial intelligence, I'll say, has determined the student kind of knows this already and we just need to really confirm it, then it could be maybe 1 or 2 times, right? But if we've seen that the student may be really struggling with these concepts, then it could be more than that, maybe 3 to 5 times. So it just really varies on the amount of time they're working in there, but it does adapt to the student as they work. Now, again, just like I said before, just because a student has mastered this now or learned this now, it doesn't mean it's long-term mastery, right? So what I was describing just before is more like short-term mastery, right? They learned it today. But in order to confirm long-term mastery, we give students those assessments, right? So if I learned it today, in my progress assessment, I'm very likely to see that topic again, and I need to confirm it during my progress assessment. And that's ongoing throughout the course, right? So mastery is forever, right? So we want to constantly cycle back and make sure students are going backwards and forwards and making sure this mastery is staying with them. So it's done, through that learning, but also through this cycle of assessment and learning for the long-term mastery.
Okay, great. Another really great question came in, and it asked if there's any good reporting tools for parents. And I think the reporting feature on the student side is actually a really great way for parents to see how their kids are progressing.
Absolutely. So here I'm on the student account now. So students can log in from home and click on Report right here, and they can just show the parents their pie chart report, which will show them the time they spent, their current pie, what they can do, and their history at the bottom. So a lot of cool things. But also their state standards report here, their individual state standards report. Let's say let's do Alabama this time. So there's our individual state standard report and the time and topic report, the one we just covered, the time we spent in ALEKS and the topics that we're learning. Another thing you'll notice is that a lot of these reports have a print icon, so students can just print these out. There's lots of ways for teachers to generate printable reports for students to take home as well. So, there's a lot of ways that this can be done through ALEKS.
Great.
Another question?
Yes, another question came in. It asked if we have any training sessions over the weekend. So maybe we can go back to where to find the training schedule on our homepage.
Sure, yeah. So on ALEKS.com, if you click on the K12 link here or here, on the left there's a training center link. And here it'll give us our calendar. So we actually don't do sessions on the weekends, but we have them every weekday. And here you can just press next to see the calendar every week. So here's our typical calendar for the week, and these are the times right below them. And you can just click on the link here to register for that, and you'll be able to have another overview of ALEKS.
Perfect. And while we're here on the home page, could you remind everybody where to go to see other schools who currently use ALEKS?
Sure. So there's a couple places that you can do this. The first one that I showed you was implementation strategies. So here on this K12 page, you can click on implementation strategies, And you can just sort by different scenarios, or you can type in a keyword, and it will find different scenarios, or I'm sorry, different strategies for you. So let's say you're in California like myself. You can click on California, and you can see these aren't all the schools using ALEKS in California, of course, but these are the ones that share their implementation with us, and we're kind enough to do that. So you can come in here and pull that up for your state and see how they're using ALEKS. Another way is to go to success stories. So this is a map, and you can come in here and click on a specific state, and it'll give you success stories. So let's do Texas. And here's different success stories of how they used ALEKS. And you can actually click on Read More to go to their implementation as well.
Perfect. A couple of questions came in regarding if there's any type of program for math fact mastery in ALEKS.
As a matter of fact, there is. That's a great question. We have something called Quick Tables. Now, in the student account that I showed you, it wasn't there because it wasn't turned on by default, but that can actually be added to any ALEKS course. So it's called Quick Tables. I'm going to jump to that here. So if you go to our course products, I'll do it from here. So if we go to the home page and click on course products, there's something here called Quick Tables. So I'm going to click on that and show you and learn more about Quick Tables. So this is for math fact mastery, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And students will be able to practice their math facts using quick math facts, but also games. So there are games associated with Quick Tables here, and you can see how it works. I'm going to pull up this PDF. I'm not going to play the video for us. You can look at that on your own. But it shows you the science behind how this works in Quick Tables if you want to read that.
Perfect. Thank you. And this goes back to the compatibility of ALEKS on various devices. So perhaps you can take us to the system requirements page.
Sure.
A lot of people are asking if both the student and the teacher side are compatible on the iPad and tablets.
Sure. Yeah, that is true. So the teacher side is definitely compatible on a tablet, such as an iPad. But if you ever wanted to see what our current system requirements are, you click on the support link here, and we have a great support team as well. But you can also always click on the system requirements link, and it'll break down our current compatibility. So here for desktop and tablet compatibility, all the elementary and middle school courses, and then all the way up to Algebra 1 in high school. So yeah, Algebra 1 for tablets right now, and these are the type of tablets that will work with ALEKS. So these are the requirements for the iPad and Android tablets. And also, if you have a Chromebook, ALEKS will work very well with Chromebooks as well.
Great. Another great question came in. So this is about the student side, so if we want to jump back over there.
Sure.
So if students don't have internet access or computer at home, people are asking what they could do to get that practice while they're away from school.
Right. So if they don't have internet access at home, it would be that worksheet feature that we discussed before. So let me go back here. So imagine a student at school where they do have access to the internet. What they could do is they can click on this worksheet link right here. And here's previous ALEKS worksheets. Or I could just generate a new worksheet and print it out at school. And this is going to be individualized for me. And the teacher can make it review or ready to learn questions. But when I generate this, this is my own personal worksheet that I can use for practice. Now, if let's say the students' computers don't have access to the printer, the teacher can just generate these on her computer or his computer, and then give that to the student that way. So there's different ways to generate worksheets.
Perfect. A few people have asked how often students should log into ALEKS. In order to implement this in their classrooms, they're wondering how often they should have the students log into their accounts.
I'll say as much as possible, but really what we recommend is for students to spend 3 to 5 hours per week to really see some dynamic results. Now, if you can get your students in there a couple hours a week, that'll be great as well. But if you can mix it in with some of this targeted instruction as well, and use some of these reports to augment your current class learning, that'll be very effective as well. But really, we say about 3 to 5 hours per week.
Great. And one more question came in on the time and topic report. So this person asked, does the time and topic report show the actual time the student uses on a problem or just the time that they've logged in? And I think this is a really great place to revisit the learning sequence log, perhaps, to really show how students are behaving while they're working in the system.
Sure. Okay. So here in the time and topic report, it's going to track all the time that they're spending in ALEKS. But when we go to the individual report and click on the learning sequence log, let me see if I can find a good example for us. Hold on a sec. Don't have the image with me, but let me see if I can find it. I might not be able to find an image for us here. Give me a sec. It's kind of small here, but perhaps we can see it. So when we click on the learning sequence log on this specific date, so I'm going to show you right here on this other link that I was looking at. So here on the learning sequence log, we can click on the date. And when you click on the date, it's going to give you all these instances. Now, in our free trial, we don't have a good example, but I'm going to pull this up for us here. I just had it. Okay, so here, it's kind of blurry, but what you can see is all these different timestamps next to each instance of the problem. So even though in the regular time and topic report, it just gives you a total of minutes, you can actually see every single instance the student was working in here. So, for example, right here it says 7:22, 7:25, 7:27. That will give you an idea of how long it was taking for the students to work on that problem. And not only that, if they got it wrong, so for example, it says correct, correct, wrong, explain, correct, and add it to pi, you can click on the one the student got wrong and see the exact answer the student put in. Okay, so if you have a student that you're working with one-on-one, this is a great way to give them that one-on-one instruction based on how their learning pattern is on that specific day or yesterday or whenever it may be.
Great, thanks, Ray. And I think those are all the questions that we'll highlight right now during the question and answer portion of the webinar. If there's any other unanswered questions that you all have submitted into the question field, we will be following up with an email with the recording of the webinar along with the responses to those questions. So thank you so much for contributing those to the question box.
Okay, well, on behalf of Kathy and Doug, we really appreciate you joining the session. But before you leave, I want to remind you there's going to be an actual survey right after the session closes. So if you could kindly, it's a very short survey, you just kindly fill that out for us. That would help us improve any further sessions that we have. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us today, and you all have a great day.
Thank you.